The encounter between a small force of conquistadors led by Francisco Pizarro and the Inca Emperor Atahualpa is regarded as one of the great turning points in history, memorably described by historian of civilization Jared Diamond as the collision at Cajamarca. Diamond views the incident as a collision between two histories of human development, a crunch point where the exigencies of history doomed one civilization's destruction at the hands of the other. In other words, there was a lot riding on this one battle, for it spelled utter catastrophe for the loser. According to Atahualpa's nephew Tita Cusi, at the first meeting between Atahualpa and the Spanish, the Inca offered them chicha, a maize beer, in gold cups, but they angered him by pouring it onto the floor. When the Spanish noted that the Inca's entourage were scared of their horses, the conquistador Hernando de Soto rode his mount right up to Atahualpa's litter, spurring his horse so close to his face that its breath tussled the crimson tassels on the Inca's royal headband. Atahualpa, however, was unmoved and unblinking. At the time, Atahualpa was fresh from victory in a battle in the ongoing civil war with his brother Huascar over a disputed succession to the throne. The dispute had arisen after their father, Huayna Capac, had succumbed to smallpox, one victim of the epidemic currently sweeping the Americas, brought by the Spanish invaders. Because of the fighting, Atahualpa was accompanied by a huge army, which was encamped outside of Cajamarca. Conquistador accounts explain that Governor Pizarro wished to obtain intelligence from some Indians who had come from Cajamarca, so he had them tortured. Learning that the Inca were encamped there, Pizarro led his men into the city. The Inca account claims that Atahualpa invited them there. On arrival, the Spanish were shocked at the size of the Indian army. All of us were full of fear, recalled one of the conquistadors, because we were so few in number, and we had penetrated so far into a land where we could not hope to receive reinforcements. Few of us slept that night, and we kept watch in the square, looking at the campfires of the Indian army. It was a frightening sight. Most of the campfires were on a hillside, and so close to one another that it looked like the sky brightly studded with stars. Pizarro and his men were quartered around a central plaza, and on the following day the Spanish leader hid most of his men just out of sight around the town square. He was accompanied by just 106 foot soldiers and 62 horsemen, a tiny force with which to attempt the subjugation of such a mighty empire. One of the conquistadors, Pedro de Candia, was sent with a small force to set up some small cannons in a high place, to be fired as the signal for the general attack. Pizarro himself went into the center of the plaza, accompanied by just 15 men. With great ceremony, Atahualpa arrived, borne on a litter and accompanied by thousands of followers, who may have been unarmed according to the conquistador's own accounts. When Friar Vicente de Valverde, the priest accompanying the Spanish, passed him a Bible, things went horribly awry. The Inca had no writing system of their own, so, unsurprisingly, Atahualpa was uncertain of what to do with the book, which he had just been told would reveal great truths. Either frustrated or angered with the priest's impudence in attempting to show him how to read it, the Inca tossed it aside. This was the cue for Valverde to call for the Inca's head. Come out, Christians! Come at these enemy dogs who reject the things of God," he cried. "March against him, for I absolve you." Pizarro complied, signaling Candia. Pedro de Ciza de Leon, one of Pizarro's conquistadors who later became a historian, recalled what happened next. Candia fired the shots, a novelty for them and incredibly frightening, but even more so were the horses and the horsemen who were loudly shouting, "Santiago! Santiago!" They came charging out against the enemies, who were stunned and did not make any use of the artifices they had planned. They did not fight, rather, they looked to where they could flee. Pizarro and his squadron of foot soldiers threw themselves into the fray, desperate to capture the Incan king. They pushed towards the Inca's litter, hacking at the bearers, says de Ciza, with slashes that would sever a hand or arm of those who held the litter, who then with great courage would hold it aloft with the other, wishing to protect their king from death or prison. Panic swept through the Indians, many of them dying in the crush. They wailed loudly, wrote de Ciza. They were shocked by what they were seeing. They asked each other if it was real or if they were still dreaming. Eventually, a furious throng pushed down one of the walls of the plaza and fled through the gap. But the Spanish continued to slaughter any in their path. According to the Spanish accounts, the massacre only abated when light failed and the evening came. By first light of the following day, between 2,000 and 7,000 Indians lie dead. And the last emperor of the Inca, Atahualpa, was captured and summarily put to death by Pizarro. Most accounts specify that the massacre lasted just over an hour. This would imply that each Spaniard was killing at a rate of approximately 12 to 41 persons per hour, although it is likely that a large proportion of the casualties were sustained during the mad rush of persons trying to flee the massacre itself. Possibly the contemporary sources exaggerated the numbers of the Indian dead, but by any assessment, the fight at Cajamarca must rank as one of the most unbalanced victories in the history of our world. It must be said, however, that the Indians seemed to believe that they were attending a diplomatic conference, and many of which were unarmed. It may be more accurate to describe the encounter as a spectacularly cruel massacre rather than a battle. Hello everyone, it's Dad. I hope you really enjoyed this first installment of this little series I'm trying to put together here. I haven't really decided on where I'm gonna try to take it, or what I'm gonna do next with it, but I don't know. Something to do. So if you enjoyed it, please subscribe or whatever you want to do. I'm not really the boss of you, so you can do whatever you want to. But have a good night, stay safe. Love you.